we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I know we're getting ready to go live. When LSO is ready to let me know we're ready to go live, we'll get started. All right. Thank you, LSO staff. Well, welcome to the House Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs Committee, everybody, especially all our new members. We have a very new committee, so I will ask for a little bit of grace from everybody as we go through these first few meetings to make sure that everybody gets acclimated. I see a lot of familiar faces out there as well, so thank you guys for joining. We're going to start out this meeting right away with roll call. So Diana, if I can have you call roll, please.
Okay. Representative Berger.
Here.
Representative Nemec.
Here.
Representative Obermuller.
Here.
Representative O'Hearn.
Here.
Representative Pendergraph.
Here.
Representative Smith.
Here.
Representative Stivar.
Present.
Representative Wiley.
Here.
Chairman Brown.
Here. Thank you, Diana. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to just do a quick introduction of everybody on the committee. So we're going to start over here with Representative Smith. And all I'm looking for is just your name, where you hail from, and maybe one interesting fact about yourself real quick, just to kind of get us all used to each other.
All right, I am Scott Smith, House District number 5, which is Southern Goshen County. I reside in Lingle. Interesting fact is I put myself through college doing balloon twisting. So.
All right, Representative Nemec.
Representative Tony Nemec from Green River, House District 60. Interesting thing about me, I'm a bomb technician with the Sweetwater County Sheriff's Office.
All right.
And I guess I like
Representative
crayons.
Representative Stivar.
Representative Clarence Stiver, House District 12, South Cheyenne District, and I'm the troublemaker.
Representative Obermuller.
Yeah, I'm from Casper, District 56, retired CPA for however interesting that might be.
I am Landon Brown. I hail from here in Cheyenne. And interesting fact, I have served on this committee and education the entire time I've been in the legislature. So,
Kevin O'Hearn, House District 59. Sorry about that. Served in the military 31 and a half years, so I know some of these dudes. And yeah, Casper and Mills, Wyoming.
Representative Berger.
So my name is Ryan Berger, House District 49 from Evanston, Wyoming. Interesting fact about me is I'm currently in the middle of coaching Special Olympics. Love Special Olympics.
Representative Wiley.
My name's Cody Wiley. I'm House District 39. That comes Rock Springs, Green River out of Sweetwater, and I'm a product of the University of Wyoming. Thank you.
And last but not least, Representative Pendergraft.
Ken Pendergraft, Sheridan, Wyoming. House District 29. Had to remember. I am an Army veteran, a combat veteran, served 9 years, 9 months, 2.5 weeks, but who's counting?
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And when we get going here, what I'll do is I will have all of our guests introduce themselves as well. You don't have to give us an interesting fact, but so one thing that I want to bring the committee's attention to is please make sure that when you are recognized by the chair, not only back here, but out there as well, that the microphone is on. And also when we're doing a roll call vote, make sure that the microphone is on so everybody out in video land can actually hear us as well, and that it's recorded and everybody can hear that. All right. So I want to go over just a little bit of ground rules before we go too far into the bills. And the reason I called 2 different bills from 2 different agencies together is to try to make sure that we have this covered in one meeting as opposed to having to do this twice. So what I would like to do is just kind of cover the ground rules of how this particular bill, or I'm sorry, how this particular committee is going to work. What I will say is the number one thing that will come out of this committee is decorum. We will make sure that we treat everybody with respect, and that comes on both sides of the dais. So I would ask anybody that testifies from the public, you will refer to everybody on this side as representative or chairman, and then on this side, you will refer to those as they ask to be spoken to by their professional title if that's so chosen or whatever they prefer that. We will also make sure that we have respect in the fact that we will not come after anybody on this side of the dais or vice versa. We want to make sure that we have a respectful place to share ideas. We come here to make sure that we're tackling Wyoming's problems and we're not creating more as we walk out of here. So I have no problem making sure that we gavel down anybody that gets out of control. I don't imagine we will get there, but I just want to make sure that we have a decorum and respect-filled committee room. So beyond that, I would like to know if there's any questions from the committee before we launch into how we will do the process. Nobody? All right, so I will also introduce Representative O'Hearn as my vice chair. Representative O'Hearn will be running the meetings for me if I'm out, and also will probably be taking the gavel here just a couple of different times throughout the session just to get used to it. I want to make sure that everybody will actually have a chance to run the gavel and run the meeting. It's kind of an interesting dynamic when you have to do it and you're not used to it. So we'll get you guys ready to go on that. The last thing that I have, let me see if I don't have my notes here anymore. I lost my notes. So the last thing that I have for everybody here is as we go through the process, please make sure that you are recognized by the chairman. If you are not recognized by the chairman, I will interrupt you, but please make sure we refer everything through the chairman to make sure that we don't have any personality conflicts, okay? With that, we will get started with the first bill on our docket, which is House Bill 36. That is Space Force amendments, and I will ask our Adjutant General, Mr. Gregory Porter, and retired Colonel Smith to go through the bill and introduce us to the bill. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thanks very much for being with us here today. Welcome to everybody that's new, and please, we're getting pretty good on this side of trying to keep the acronyms out of it, but every once in a while we'll slip. So if something comes out of our mouths that doesn't make any sense, please don't hesitate to jerk us up short and ask what the heck that is. For the record, my name is Major General Greg Porter. I am the Adjutant General. I've served as the Adjutant General for about 4 years, and I've just completed my 38th year in the Wyoming National Guard. So to my right is our Director of the Commander's Action Group, Chris Smith, and I'll let him introduce himself and really bring up a couple of issues to you, Mr. Chair, before we roll into the bills, if that's all right. Thanks.
Colonel Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Chris Smith, retired colonel, attorney. I have a different role now as the Director of the Commander's Action Group. And I did want to, with regard to House Bill 36, I just wanted to let the committee know that House Bill 57, which I think our chair is one of the sponsors of, actually would do everything that this bill would do in terms of what we're trying to do. So in talking about the bill, what this bill is it was an interim topic. It's a committee bill from out of the interim topic. We periodically come to the legislature to do what I call statutory cleanup, things that need to be fixed in our current statutes. This is one of those bills. As most of you probably know, the Space Force was established in December of 19. It is a DoD component, a Department of Defense component. In many places in our statute, we list all the components of the Department of Defense. We don't list Space Force because it's too new. So what this bill, House Bill 36, does is simply add Space Force to those 6 places in the current statute that lists out all the DoD components. And that's really all the bill does. It adds Space Force in those appropriate places. House Bill 57 does that and more. And so they're complementary bills. There's really, if both are passed, I assume LSO will figure out how to make them work together. With that, I can go through the entire 6-page bill, but literally it goes to the various statutory sections that need Space Force added, and that's all it does. So with that, Mr. Chairman, depending on what you would like me to do, I can go through it page by page, or we can go through it, answer any questions the committee might have.
All right, thank you. General, you said you have some additional information you'd like to go over first before we go over.
Mr. Chairman, that was it. I think if, on House Bill 57, if we wanted not to do this bill, because 57 is a little more comprehensive, it accomplishes the same thing. Certainly, if 57 didn't pass, then, and we didn't do this one, we'd still have a little bit of an issue, but I don't see anything particularly controversial about 57 either. So I guess what I would pose to you, if you wanted to not let this bill come out of committee and we focus on 57, we're good with that. We're also good with helping you support it however you decide you want to go.
Well, I personally think 57 is a great little bill. What we will do is, because this was the first bill out of the committee and because there was so much information relayed during the interim process, I do appreciate that everybody during the interim understood exactly what we were going through. What I would like is I would like the Colonel Smith to go through this page by page. And the reason being is the understanding and the recognition of what we're actually going to be doing and what we're going to be accomplishing by adding these areas for the Space Force. You know, the tuition reimbursement, death benefits, anything along those lines that we may be doing. So if you would, Mr. Smith, I'd appreciate you to walk through the bill. And if there is any questions during the process, committee, please interrupt and let me know and we'll get you guys recognized.
All right, Mr. Chairman, certainly. On the first page of House Bill 36, down at the bottom, we talk about Section 1911-202, which is talking about acknowledging instruments, which really is powers of attorney, wills, and things we do in the military for our military members. The only change in the existing statute is on page 2, down on line 8, where we talk about who can do that, and we talk about the rank of second lieutenant or higher in the Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, and we added or Space Force. And that is essentially who can acknowledge bills under our state code. The rest of this on page 2 onto page 3 is just the existing statute. It's an acknowledgement that we do for a variety of things, but mostly powers of attorneys and wills. So that gets us into the middle part of page 3, where we talk about amending Wyoming Statute 20-2-205 down on line 11, which is temporary military duty. It has some definitions of who a service member is. And again, down on line 19, we add to all the different DoD components, Space Force. As a definition of service member, Title 20-2-205 is just talking about how we do orders under state law. So it really is a very simple change about the definition of service member. Over on page 4, we change Wyoming Statute 21-17-105, which is talking about tuition assistance program, in reduced tuition for veteran spouses and children. And again, the definition down on line 9 on page 4 just adds Space Force so that those veterans of the Space Force would be included with all the other veterans in this tuition program. Down on line 14, we move on to section 21-24-102. And this is, and I actually didn't write this one down. This is the compact. I apologize, I don't remember what this section is doing, where we add Space Force to the definitions in 21-24-102. I'll get back to that, I'll look it up. I apologize. I didn't write a note for that one.
That's okay. I actually think this is the teacher portability contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's what it is. So, well, being on education, you work that. Top of page 5 is 33-1-116, and really on line 13 is 31-117. These statutes were an effort by the legislature to help military members coming into the state to professional occupational licensure of the members in 16 and their spouses in 17. So it allowed the various licensing and occupational licensing boards to grant temporary permits while they work getting a permit to be able to do their occupation. And so again, on line 8, we just add Space Force to the list of people, and then the same on line 19. So the 33-1-116 and 17 are very important to our active duty brethren who PCS into the state and allows them and their spouses to continue their occupations while they work on their licensing. Finally, on page 6, 42-4-120, this is talking about state contracting, and it allows certain benefits for members of the military, which we added Space Force to. So again, it has to do with a contracting licensure and authority of the department to give military members a preference. And with that, sir, that's the bill.
All right, committee. So thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate you walking through that kind of an exercise just to make sure that when we're looking at the bill, we understand all the parts and pieces that are invested in this. So any questions from the committee? Pretty simple bill, but just in case. Well, hold on. We've got to do public testimony here. So check and see if we have any public testimony on this bill. Open the floor for public testimony. Once, twice. I see nobody rushing to the mic, so we will close public testimony. With that, committee, what is your pleasure?
Move the bill.
Moved by O'Hearn, seconded by Stivar. All right, since we just walked through the bill page by page, I do not have any need to go through that on this, but I do have a question myself. Colonel Smith, and actually this may be for the tag. We have this effective July 1, and I'm not a huge fan of always going in there and doing these things immediately, but I do have a question in regards to, do we have any current members in the Space Force, either active duty or guard, that we would want to apply this particular law to effective immediately as opposed to waiting until July?
Mr. Chairman, there are currently we have no Guard members that are Space Force members. There are a few out on FE Warren, however. I couldn't tell you what the impact of this would be. I would not suspect it would be great. I think we could wait until July. Chris, would you say anything different on that? But there are a couple, sir.
Right. And Mr. Chairman, this was generated as recognizing that we needed to fix the statute. It wasn't generated because somebody had a problem.
Okay.
My experience has been Wyoming is very veteran and military friendly, and probably nobody even thought if you showed up as a Space Force member to not give you what these various provisions do.
All right, well, with that, I will not move any amendments, and unless anybody wants to move that for any reason at all, we'll leave it as is. So any further discussion on the bill?
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Berger.
I do have a question then. Are we going to just move this one or which way to vote? Because 57, what does 57 do that's more than 36?
Certainly. So that's a good question. So what we will do is we will move this, we will put this out there. And the reason being is one thing you may learn in the legislature, and it's something I've certainly learned, is you want to have more than one horse in the race. So we will have this one out there. I will be bringing 57 and I will go out on that side of the dais and I'll explain the differences. But truthfully, what 57 does is a little bit more in depth, determines what uniformed service officers are, and then what the non-uniformed is. And then we go into a little bit more areas in the section where we actually have military listed as a defined term. And instead of having uniformed, we would get rid of, I'm sorry, instead of having military, we would have uniformed and non-uniformed and armed services. We'll go into that, but what I'd like to do is at least have the opportunity to bring this one forward. And then if you guys decide you don't like 57, we at least have this one ready to roll. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Question on the bill. Diana, would you please call roll? And gentlemen, please make sure that we have mics on when you call roll.
Representative Berger,
Aye.
Representative Nemec,
Aye.
Representative Obermueller,
Aye.
Representative O'Hearn,
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft,
Aye.
Representative Smith,
Aye.
Representative Stivar,
Aye.
Representative Wiley,
Aye.
Chairman Brown.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes do pass.
All right. So with that committee, I do not anticipate this one making the floor if 57 passes, so I'm going to work with the majority floor leader to hold this one back on committee of the whole. But should this one be the one that moves forward, is there any volunteers for somebody who would like to? All right, Representative Wiley will carry this bill, so if we get to that point, we'll have him carry this bill. All right, that brings us to our next bill. General and Mr. Smith, thank you guys so much for that portion. I would guess that we have kind of a litany of everybody that's going to want to talk on this one. So we're going to bring up House Bill 39. And it looks like you guys are going to start us out with this one, and then looks like maybe Whiteout will come in after that. So House Bill 39, Colonel Smith, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So House Bill 39 discusses the veterans designation on Wyoming driver's licenses. A little bit of background. Again, this was an interim topic. It came out of the Veterans Commission in WYDOT, trying to simplify what the process has been and also to put into statute what the actual process they're currently using is with the advent of the Real ID driver's license. So back in July of 2013, the legislature passed and created two statutes in Title 31 to essentially allow veterans to put a V at the time on their license plates. So Wyoming Statute 31-7-111B allowed an honorably discharged veteran of the armed forces to put a V on their license. 31-7-141 then talked about the process, which included requiring that WYDOT obtain the information from the person desiring the V on their driver's license, send it to the Veterans Commission for confirmation of that honorably discharged veteran status. What this bill does is twofold. One is with the advent of Real ID driver's license, now the word veteran is placed on the ID, not a V. The statute says V. They're actually now doing veteran. So that is the change in 111. And then 141, WYDOT's driver's license folks, certainly over the 10 years that this bill has been in place, have developed plenty of expertise to decide if somebody is honorably discharged or not. And so the desire is to remove that extra step of the Veterans Commission having to confirm that, yes, this is an honorably discharged veteran. It will speed up the process. It'll remove a delay for the veteran seeking that designation. And my understanding is WYDOT and the Veterans Commission very much wants to make this an easier process. So that's what the bill does. It's a two-page bill. In going to the bill, Mr. Chairman, Section 1 is the change. The first is on page 2 is 31-7-111, which previously, as you can see, the change on page 2 on line 6 required a certification by the Veterans Commission. This bill would change that documentation issued by the armed forces that the applicant is an honorably discharged vet. So we remove the Veterans Commission from the process. And then in 31-7-141, starting down on line 13 on page 2, instead of saying certification, it would say for WYDOT, upon receiving documentation as required, WYDOT would identify on the license that the person is honorably discharged in the form of a V and adding or the word veteran on the license, again, trying to still do both on the face of the license, and that's literally all that the change is there. And again, in Section 2, it's effective July 1st of 23. This was a collaboration between WYDOT, the Veterans Commission, and the Military Department. It's really to clean up and allow them to do what they're already doing, and removing an extra step from the process that WYDOT, the Veterans Commission, and the Military Department do not feel is any longer necessary. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for the committee's questions.
Any questions for Colonel Smith? All right, seeing none, you guys are excused. Would WYDOT like to testify on this? Welcome. If you'd please introduce yourself and your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Taylor Rossetti, Support Services Administrator for YDOT. I'm originally from Rock Springs also. I've been trapped here for a long, long time. Please, you Sweetwater County residents, remember when you go back at the end of February or at the end or beginning of March there that it is a blessing to be from there. So I do to my right have Misty Zimmerman. She's the Driver Services Program Manager, and I think she can speak a little bit to the impact of what this does to the department. Thank you.
Ms. Zimmerman, please.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. The committee, my name is Misty Zimmerman. I am the Program Manager for White House Driver Services. As the bill's written, we support this bill. We're currently doing several steps in order to verify the process through the Veterans Association. We work well with them. It's a wonderful process. We do think that this would benefit the veterans of Wyoming in speeding up that process. We already have methods in place to verify license plates that have been approved already. We would work with the commission to get a list of acceptable documents that would be able, my staff is trained in document recognition and fraudulent document recognition. We don't see this being a problem at all.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Ms. Zimmerman or Mr. Rossetti? Yes, Representative Pendergraft.
Mr. Chairman, this is just a general question that is something stood out in my head for a long time. It seems like in Wyoming, you may have a driver's license, and in order to get that driver's license, you had to present all sorts of forms. Just as a question, if I have veteran on my driver's license, can I go to another agency, present that driver's license, and avoid dragging out my DD 214 again?
Ms. Zimmerman.
Giving me a promotion. Chairman Brown, Representative, that would be up to the agency that that person is presenting that document for. It really, we're putting that there for that verification. If that agency chooses to accept that, that would be up to them.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much. And then I will check with Mr. Shepherd. Mr. Shepherd, are you interested in testifying, or have these two done a great job for you? All right, I'm getting a thumbs up. So, all right, we are going to open up the floor here. I do recognize Representative Conrad and is in the room. Would you like to testify on this? Representative Conrad, floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Most importantly, thank you, veterans, for your service. I stand to come before you just to give you some perspective on my view of this, and it's a favorable bill that I would recommend you wholly support. As the veteran of 21 years, veteran of Desert Storm, also the commander of the VFW, Post 7798, and I also have the pleasure of serving Governor Gordon on the Wyoming's Veterans Commission as a commissioner. The challenges that this has presented has impacted me personally. I've had the difficulty and the inability to get the V on my driver's license. And it was through agencies, I guess, checking and so forth that prevented that. So I think this bill, as pointed out earlier, will reduce the amount of steps necessary to receive that veteran status. As Representative Pendergraft has spoken about, I believe that there should be, as just point of impact or more input, there should be the acceptance or standard acceptance, because my military ID, my retired military ID, was not sufficient enough to attain that V as necessary. Obviously, the DD 214 is that, but obviously we as veterans hold that DD form 214 pretty near, and also more importantly, pretty sacred, and it kept in a very, very safe place. So to drag it out specifically and or then asked by an agency, is that the original copy or is that a copy of a copy of a copy, could present some challenges. But I would encourage all of you to honor our veterans, and more importantly, allow this to take place, because one of the most honorable positions that we've ever served in our life, maybe second or maybe even first to what we're serving now as representatives and senators, was our time in the military. And I value those veterans. I value those veterans in Southwest Wyoming, specifically as I represent Lincoln, Uinta, and Sweetwater County for that Veterans Commission. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here to testify in front of you. It's important to me. It's important to our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Conrad, and thank you for your service. Truly an honor to have you and sharing the chambers with us as well. And thank you for your time today. Members, any questions or comments? Okay. All right, thank you. I'd also like to recognize Representative Trujillo. Are you interested in testifying on this bill at all? Or are you just here to watch? All right. All right. With that, I will open up the microphones for public testimony. Is there anybody in the public this time around that would like to testify in the room? Seeing none there, I do have one registered online, and I will go over some information here in just a few seconds, but it looks like I have Ms. Chopping that would like to testify. If you can bring her in, please. Okay. Ms. Chopping, if you can just unmute yourself, you should be good to go.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, and also hello to the members of the committee. My name is Mara McManaman, and I am a disabled Army veteran. My family has been residents of Goshen County for 5 generations. I come from a military family. All 3 of my sisters have served in either the Army or the Air Force. And I can say that we are all in support of this bill. I think it's an excellent bill, and I endorse it wholeheartedly. I hope that we can all agree that we can do more for our veterans, and this is a wonderful proposition for our servicemen and women. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chopping. Do we have any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you.
Any other public testimony? Seeing none, we will close public testimony. Members, what is the pleasure?
Move the bill.
Moved by Stivar, seconded by O'Hearn. Anybody can do that, just so you guys are all aware. You don't have to be scared. All right. We did go through the bill already, line by line. I have no need to do that unless any other members feel the need. I've heard questions, so question being called. Ms. Hicksonbaugh, would you please call roll?
Representative Berger,
Aye.
Representative Nemec,
Aye.
Representative Obermuller,
Aye.
Representative O'Hearn,
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft,
Aye.
Representative Smith,
Aye.
Representative Stivar,
Aye.
Representative Wiley,
Aye.
Chairman Brown.
Aye.
9 ayes, it do passes.
Thank you, Diana. All right, same thing here. Is there anybody who would like to volunteer to carry this one on the floor? All right, Representative Nemec will carry that. We'll have myself and Representative O'Hearn behind you to back up for you if you need that. So thank you, everybody, for coming in and your introductions as well today. I truly appreciate it. Thank you, Representative Conrad, for your testimony. Truly appreciate that as well. Do also just want to go over, we will be doing, as you guys saw today, when we have public testimony that is online, that will be the last portion of public testimony that I will receive. And we will also do it in a form of anybody from in-state versus anybody from out of state is how we will do that. And that's just in an effort to make sure that we are hearing Wyoming citizens and Wyoming citizens' concerns before we hear anybody from the outside. This committee, I don't anticipate that being a huge issue, but I want to make sure that anybody who has come down to Cheyenne during this time frame has heard first. They've made the time, the commitment to come here and testify in front of us. So we will hear them first, and then we will certainly go online, and we'll make sure that we hear Wyoming, and then we'll go outside the state. So committee members, anything else for the good of the order? Yes, thank you, Vice Chairman. So committee members, there is a form on the top of your information here. I need your cell phone numbers for Ms. Hicksonbaugh. Make sure that that's filled out and left on top. I'm sure everybody else has had at least one committee meeting, but the folder stays here. Bills go with you. If you don't want them to go with you, you can leave them in there and she will trash them for you. But please leave the folders here for everybody else. All right.